lovely people. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you why my audition process was so stressful. Hopefully this can kind of ground you so you know what to expect, so you can kind of mentally prepare, I guess, and just to know what you're getting into. And this video is gonna be a lot of negativity, but don't worry, at the end, I will be going over a ton of things that you can do to relieve the stress and not go through the same things that I did. You will be seeing a pattern of crying. One, that's because that's how I deal with stress. And two, I'm highlighting it, so don't worry, I don't cry every day. So most of the things I'm gonna be talking about are from the beginning of the audition season, because that was by far the hardest for me, because I had trouble balancing applying to schools, recording pre-screens, staying on top of school, being in a show. I had like a million things and it was way too much at once. So at the beginning months of my senior year, I was doing all these things and I was in this opera, and it was a lot. It was constant rehearsals, and on top of that, I got sick. So I was sick for an entire month, and I had a cough for 3 weeks, which destroyed my voice. I ended up having to go on complete vocal rest for an entire week, which was really hard. If you go in for a few days, it's fine, and you like selectively talk, but I couldn't talk at all, and it was awful. So being sick definitely caused a lot of stress, because I had to keep pushing back when I was filming my pre-screens. And when I did decide to film my pre-screens, it wasn't my best, because right when I was kind of okay and could kind of sing again, that's when I had to do it, because I didn't want to get it in too late. So that was really stressful. So I care a lot about school and how I do in school, even if I don't always enjoy all of it. So I was very stressed about my classes, and I had so many tests around the time I was filming my pre-screens and just everything. But thankfully I have a really great counselor, and several times, I think at least once a week, I would go to her room crying. And there were actually 2 times where I had to leave school because I couldn't stop crying because I was so stressed. I went to her office so many times that I was there during 2 fire drills, which is just insane. So clearly I was there a lot. And I also have an amazing history teacher who is my favorite teacher. And she actually went through the musical theater audition process, because she started studying musical theater before she did history. So she knew what I was going through. And even if she didn't know, she is just the most understanding person ever. And she was also another person that I was able to talk to and cry to. And just having somebody to talk to through that process was so nice, because if I kept that in, things would have been so much worse. So also around the time that I was turning in my pre-screens, I was getting a lot of no's. And it's not like uncommon, because usually schools with pre-screens are more difficult to get into. So I was getting no's, and it was very stressful, and just being rejected isn't that easy. But it gets easier. But at first it was really hard and really devastating getting all these no's from schools. And soon enough, I had my first in-person audition, and I was extremely nervous. I was so nervous because I was in the mindset that if I mess up this audition, then I mess up my chance of getting into the school, which, I guess that's true in a way, but just thinking that and just being like, oh, I'm gonna mess up. I'm probably gonna mess up, and then I'm just gonna ruin my chance of getting to that school is just an awful way of thinking of it. And that was my mindset. So the days leading up to the audition, I was just crying because I was terrified, because I was putting this stress on myself. And if you think that's bad, it gets worse, because I got an email from a school I was applying to, and they were like, okay, you need to turn in your application tomorrow. And I was like, you know what, that's fine. Okay, I've got all my essays done. I'll just reread over them and then turn them in. And this school has you pick a monologue from a list of monologues and do one of them. But I didn't know that you had to turn in your pre-screens with your application, with your essays. And not only had I not memorized a monologue, I hadn't even picked one from the list. And this was the day before my first audition. So I spent the 6.5-hour car ride to my first audition trying to memorize it. But it was so hard because I was just doing it in one sitting and I was just so stressed and I couldn't memorize it. So we got there, we got to our hotel. Just kidding. It was supposed to be a hotel, but my dad got a motel. So, you know, the whole dead bugs in the shower, you know. Yeah, that was it. I was surprised there wasn't a dead body. But I ended up filming it in front of the filthy bathroom door because this motel had no lighting. It was so dark. So it worked out. But what I had to do, because I couldn't remember the first word of every line, was write the first word of each sentence and tape it up behind the camera. And then I filmed it. And I filmed it like a few times, like maybe 4 times. And I was like, okay, I think I'll just go with this take. And this place didn't have Wi-Fi that worked, so I couldn't turn it in. So my dad and I, this is the night before, we were driving around this place that we had never been to because I was in some other state for an audition, trying to find Wi-Fi. We ended up in a Starbucks. I was drinking tea and bawling my eyes out, which is just kind of a mood. And I couldn't get it. I couldn't even get Starbucks Wi-Fi was not working. Starbucks failed me. But thankfully, I was about to give up. I'm like, I don't even care anymore. But I was able to turn it in on my phone, and thank God it worked. Thank God it worked. And I ended up getting into the school, so you know what? Just keep pushing through. I also did cry a lot the days leading up to my second audition as well, because I was just in the same stress mindset. But thankfully, Artsbridge had a college audition refresh class that was 2 days in December. And I went to that and I came back very stressed because I knew I had so much more work to do, but it was really helpful and I was much less stressed after that. So another thing that happened at one of my auditions later in the year, so I took a plane to get there and I was like, you know what, let me check the audition requirements again just to make sure I have it right. And thank God I did that, because somehow I thought I had the audition requirements, but I didn't. No, I had them all wrong. I didn't know what to do. So I got to my hotel and I didn't do anything that night because I was just like, I need to get to sleep. And I woke up the next day and I needed a classical/art song. So I had to find that. And I also realized I needed 2 full songs. So I ended up having to change one of my songs that day and do a different one that I hadn't practiced in forever. And it was so stressful. And I don't know how, but I think because I'd been through so much already, when this happened, I needed 2 new songs that I hadn't worked on. I was so calm, like weirdly calm. It was peaceful. It was nice because I was so stressed inside, but I didn't even cry once. I just kept it together. And I'm so glad, because I think if I didn't keep it together, it would have made it so much worse and I would have spent time crying instead of, you know, calmly collecting myself and figuring out what I needed and talking to my vocal coach and printing out music at the hotel and figuring it all out, and it worked out. Some other things that happened to me, I got sick a lot because I did not clean out my humidifier steamer thing because I didn't know that I needed to do that. So from January to February, I was sick pretty much every week in between my auditions, and it wasn't super bad that I couldn't go to school. I did miss school quite a few times because I got sick, but I did get sick, and I was sick at one of my auditions. So when I say you should find a song that you can sing when you're sick, I mean it, because it happened to me and it can happen to you, and you want to be prepared. And that's like the majority of things I was stressed about, but I was also stressed about, you know, finding material. And I was like, okay, it has to be this, no exceptions. And I had like 7 different things that it had to follow. And because I was being so restrictive, I couldn't find a song. And like, there's this one song that I'm like, I'm not doing that song. That doesn't fit this, and this. And I ended up going with that song after I realized I need to not be so particular about the song I need to find. And then I did end up changing one of my songs during winter break after I had my first 2 auditions because it just wasn't a good enough song. It was way overdone, didn't show off really anything. Okay, so I'm not just gonna, you know, free you into the world of everything I just talked about and stressful world of the audition process, don't worry. Now I'm gonna be getting into things you can do to relieve the stress, and I have a lot. The first thing I have to recommend is try not to be in a show from September until February. You probably want to, but it's just gonna be so stressful and it's not worth it. You want to focus on getting into your dream school and not on just some musical. You know? Does that make sense? Prioritize. Next is you gotta find somebody who you can talk to, because if I didn't have my counselor, if I didn't have my teacher, if I didn't have these people that I talk to, it would have been so much harder. So find somebody, even if it's just a friend, find somebody that you can kind of get this out to, because you don't want to hold it in. Something that is also great that you should do is meditation. And I am linking a playlist in the description. Some of them are 15 minutes, some are just 5 minutes. And 5 minutes a day is not a lot. And not only will this help you be a better actor and not be in your head, but just being able to kind of take some time out of your day and relax and not be in your head is gonna be so helpful. And also, you need to be getting in your academic applications as soon as possible. Write your Common App essay, write your supplemental essays. I talk about ways to make it easier in my What I Wish I Knew Before Applying to College video, so definitely check that out. And you wanna get as much done at the beginning months of your senior year as possible, because if you let that pile up into your audition season, it's gonna be very, very difficult and very stressful. Another thing is you wanna be actively looking for material, so listening to new songs, reading plays, doing all of that stuff. And it also makes you a more well-rounded performer if you do that anyways. If you are actively looking for material a little bit each day, maybe just 15 minutes listening to a few songs, or reading the descriptions of a few plays, you want to be ready for pre-screens. And with pre-screens, I have talked about when you should be getting them in and pretty much when you should be doing everything in your audition season in my Ultimate Musical Theater Audition Guide. And you want to get your pre-screens done as soon as possible, but you don't want to do them so soon that if you did them 2 weeks later, it could have been vastly better. But you also don't want to fall in the trap of being a perfectionist like me, where I'm like, well, if I do it next week, it can be better. If I do it the week after that, it can be a little bit better. Or 3 weeks, it can be even better. And I do it to a point where I'm just never ready, because I'm always like, well, it could be better. And sometimes you just have to get out of that and just film it. Another thing I had an issue with is throughout my audition process, I felt like I was wasting time if I was singing songs that weren't my audition songs, which definitely hurt me, because some days I would just be like, you know what, I don't want to sing my audition songs. I'm just kind of over singing them right now for today. And I wouldn't sing that day, because for me, if I wanted to sing fun songs, I felt like I was wasting my time, when in reality, not singing other songs and just doing nothing was wasting my time. Another thing you have to do so you can avoid my mistake of not having the right material at my audition is look at my Google sheet that I created for all the material you need. And it literally has everything for pre-screens and in person, and it's very organized. So definitely look at that. And I recommend going to format and then going to text wrap and then wrap, so that your text is easily seen and it doesn't get hidden behind the other text. And definitely make a copy of this document, fill it out, tailor it to your schools, and print it out and have it, because this is going to be so important. And there's really no reason to not do it, because you're gonna need that information, so make a copy of that, it's free. Another thing to know, clearly it's gonna be stressful. You're probably already stressed trying to find material, and so know that it's gonna be stressful, and if you are stressed, don't beat yourself up about that. That's normal, everybody is stressed. Something that I think is really, really sweet that my friend told me that's great with dealing with rejection from pre-screens and schools is that every no is one no closer to a yes. And I think that is just so sweet. So just viewing it as a positive thing is so nice. And just everything, finding the silver lining in everything is so important, and not dwelling on the past, because you can't change that. You can only change your future, which is sappy, I know. Another thing you definitely should do is treat every school you go to like it's the school you are going to attend. If you don't like it, still do that. If it's your dream school and you are terrified and you're like, I'm never gonna get in, when you are there, you need to be telling yourself, this is a school I'm going to get into. Because when I went to my NYU audition, I had already gotten no's from schools that were ranked lower than NYU. And before I was like, well, how am I supposed to get into this school if I've already gotten these no's? But instead I got there and I'm like, you know what? This is the school I'm going to. I'm going to this school. I love this school. And I got in because I wasn't thinking negative thoughts. If you go on thinking negative thoughts, it's gonna hurt you. You're not gonna do as well because you're gonna be so in your head. Something that also really helped me at my first audition, Marcus Martin, who is just an incredible singer, an incredible person, he was telling us how you can only control yourself. When you're in that audition room, you can't control what they think. Now, it feels like you can't control anything, but you actually control 90% of what goes on in that audition room because you are the one prepping your songs, you are the one being confident, you are the one who decides how you present yourself. So really think about that and focus on the stuff you can control. Focusing on the stuff you can't control just wastes time and does no good for you. He also said, go in with an open mind and embrace every school, and that is definitely something you should do. And he said everything is going to end up how it should. And being at my first audition, being super scared, I was like, Marcus, I don't know if that's true, and it was, okay? I ended up where I'm supposed to end up and I am so happy. And if you told me at the beginning of the year that I was gonna end up at my dream school, I would have been like, you're insane. No, what? No. So that's definitely true. Just, be your best, do what you can, and leave the rest to the universe. Another thing you can do to learn monologues quickly, or if you're gonna learn the lyrics to a song really quickly, is using the app Lines. When you are learning lines, you want to do it in a monotone voice. You don't want to be acting it, and you don't want to have any intonations in your voice because you don't want to get in the habit of having the same intonation each time, because not only is that not true acting, but when you're in your audition, if they ask you to change something, it's gonna be a lot harder if you've practiced it the exact same way each time. Okay, so that is everything I have to say. Hopefully you've learned, what to expect. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, found it entertaining in some way. And if you did, it'd be awesome if you'd like this video and subscribe and turn on your notifications, because I have so many videos coming out, and I have so many that have already come out that you should definitely check out, and I have a playlist. And if you have any questions about anything, leave them down below. Maybe you have a video you want me to make, leave that down below, and have a wonderful day. Bye.